Have you ever wondered if you are in control of your tech life, or if all of these gadgets and things in our lives are in control of us? Well, you, my friend, are not alone, and I have been really exploring all the research and the backing behind digital minimalism. And frankly, if that word minimalism gives you that ugh feeling, I also really understand that, as I'm gonna share with you what all the research and the backing behind digital minimalism is, and though show you what I relate to being, which is a digital intentionalist. So let's get right on into it, and let's get you your focus, more creativity, and more energy back so you can spend your attention, which is one of your greatest assets, especially as a leader, my friend, on the things that matter most. So let's get right on into it. All right, so let's just be real. I'm gonna share with you my story on why in the world, what led me to even go into experimenting with digital minimalism, right? And frankly, I was just watching myself where I've always been someone who's gotten really curious about kind of what causes anxiety. I have definitely been someone who's related to experiencing and struggling with anxiety throughout my life. I think this is so common for ambitious women in particular, there's so many inputs and so much stimulation in our life today, and there's so many shoulds of what we should do with our time and how we should spend our energy and forget people pleasing and all those things. But anyways, I was really sitting there going, wow, I feel like I'm just kind of procrastinating, I'm self-sabotaging. I just feel this kind of undercurrent feeling of stress. Even though, to be fair, I'm someone who's been very intentional in a lot of other areas. I have Marie Kondo'd my closet. I have Marie Kondo'd a lot of other areas of my life, but I really started to notice and get curious about, okay, so why is this still a thing for me? What is this? And so actually, what really helped me and was really key here was my not to-do list guide, which you can get in the description box below. It's just a free guide that really helps you to inventory and kind of see where you're spending your time and energy in a given day for a week. And when I did that guide, I noticed I just saw these moments of time where I was checking email, responding to messages, responding to clients, responding to family members. I just started to notice how much scattered digital time was in the midst of my day, which got me really curious because I went, if I really survey the days when I feel most productive, when I feel most creative, when I feel truly in alignment and most flow with myself, versus the days where I maybe struggle to sleep, where I just kind of feel this overwhelm that I'm always behind or that I'm just not doing enough. That's the big one, this constant anxiety of I'm just not doing enough, or I'm supposed to be in 12 places at the same time feeling. And I really got curious about noticing that my digital world seemed to have a big impact on this. So moral of the story is that's really what got me interested in going, okay, I really want to start looking into how can I start being intentional with these devices that I have? Because frankly, I don't know if you're like me, but I got a smartphone. Let me think. I think when I went into college, and then also Facebook came out around that time, and then Instagram came years later, but I never took time or energy to be intentional with these devices, and I never knew the ways in which these technologies would evolve, right? None of us have really had that space or time, most of us, to really sit and go, am I genuinely using these technology services, apps, and just different platforms to the best of my ability? Are they actually providing high quality value in my life? Or honestly, are they blatant distractions, And so this was my exploration. And so lo and behold, that led me to go down this rabbit hole, and this beautiful, beautifully eye-opening rabbit hole of digital minimalism and the powerful resources. So the one that I'm gonna quote most often today is Cal Newport, and actually a book I would highly recommend it's right here, I'll put it right here, is called Digital Minimalism. And as I was reading this book, it just felt like all of the things that I felt so true in myself and in my own knowing were becoming so clear in listening to him, right? And actually, the way he describes digital minimalism, I'm gonna share with you, is actually, let's see, I wrote it on my handy dandy notebook. as I do. As you know, I always have 4 million notebooks around me all the time. The way he describes it is as a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value and that happily miss out on everything else. And then happily miss out on everything else. That part I think was worth saying again. Happily missing out on everything else, because I don't know about you, but if you ever have that experience of FOMO, yes, that fear of missing out, this is a really key thing to pay attention to. So what really intrigued me and kind of hooked me on this digital minimalism topic, and really listening to a lot of what Cal Newport, and also another great resource is the Center for Humane Technology. There's many, and honestly, you can see so many research articles from Harvard and various medical institutions on this topic, is the impact of technological devices and these tech activities on our dopamine levels. And dopamine is often referred to as the pleasure chemical, but it's a chemical in our brain that has so many important functions, including, but not limited to, our motivation, our mood. It affects a lot of our movement functioning. There's just so many reasons why we need to care about how our dopamine levels are impacted in our physical bodies and the impact on all these other areas, of our well-being. And so I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but let's just say the more you hear the research in Cal's book and just in these different articles, you really begin to see the way a lot of these tech devices, our smartphones, the social media platforms, are being utilized to actually utilize things similar to like gambling, slot machine style techniques to get us addicted, to get us to feel like our social validation and our social belonging is based on these notifications, is based on these likes, it's based on these engagements online. So for me, as a biology nerd, as someone who really, really deeply cares about ensuring that I'm mindful of my well-being, this really was very insightful and important, because I want to ensure that I'm doing the best I can to take care of my well-being, and noticing that these actions, something that I didn't even realize with my tech was having such a significant impact, has been eye-opening. I have a feeling you may be someone like me who's used that word, let's say 2 phrases. I'm too busy, or I just don't have time. Well, the reality is, the more I started to call myself out on this and realize I was just not making time, and I just was not prioritizing in my life what matters most. And this digital intentionalism I'm going to share with you here is actually what has been a huge, I am telling you, a huge game changer. And I want to be completely transparent, as you know, I love to be with you. I'm on the journey. I'm exploring the same way with every video I share here. I'm not sitting here pretending I'm figured it all out and I've got this system of perfection. I'm just saying, hey, I'm experimenting, I'm learning, and I'm just seeing what really is making an impact. And I want to share this gift and this goodness with you. So that way you can have more connection. That way you can have more focus. That way you can really create beautiful things that make a difference in your life, that create meaning in your life, and therefore create meaning in the lives of others. So how I would describe digital intentionalism, and as I've mentioned, this is kind of a work in progress understanding for me. So this is my current expression of it. It is a practice of intentionally choosing tech activities that support my well-being and foster connection, learning, and creative inspiration. That just makes me feel so good, and it makes me feel like intentionally I'm using my tech for good. For good in my life, for good in others, for really showing up in the truest, most beautiful ways that I deeply care about. So how this has made a really big difference in my life is, honestly, I've noticed, and I'm gonna go into other details in later videos on kind of my exact steps and the boundaries I've created and my keys for really honoring digital intentionalism. But in this video, I just want to share, I can't even explain to you the beautiful gifts I've received in my life now that I've really begun to embrace this practice. I have had more mornings of genuine self-reflection and so much more creative emergence. I've had so many beautiful creative ideas, and not just like simple superficial ideas, like deep thinking type of ideas that I've been craving for a long time and just never been able to get there. I've had so many more sweet moments with my partner, sweet, spacious conversations with those that I love and I care about in my life, because now I'm so much less focused on all of these different inputs and all of these different connections, and I'm really focused on who are the true, like what does the true community in my life look like and feel like. And when I do show up for my clients, for the people in my life, they know it's with that thoughtfulness that matters. Again, that's another value of mine, with thoughtful presence, authentic presence. So it's so special, and honestly, there's nothing I can articulate more than as you begin to open up and practice this, there's so many juicy goodies you get to discover in this. So, I mean, as you can see, I get radiant just talking about it, and you know me, I just love to share the secrets and the goodies I discover. And then in terms of kind of what I would say is like the first step, or you know, I love a good tool, something I would recommend playing with this week is to start to take note and become really aware of how you are relating to your tech devices, to your tech activities, where you're spending a lot of time and energy. Just see this as kind of like a digital survey, you know, really take notice and just become aware of what feels good, what actually leaves you feeling pretty drained. Times when maybe you feel like that brain overload comes into play after being on Instagram scrolling for a long time, whatever it may be. But to really, the first step in my process, and I'm gonna be dishing out and sharing my 5 steps to really practicing digital intentionalism that I have found have literally, like, as I mentioned, changed my life. So the first one that I'll share now is for you to do this survey. To just, and actually, like I mentioned earlier, a tool and a guide that I would highly recommend to have support in this is my not to-do list guide in the description box below. Because as I mentioned, that's actually what helped me get really clear and noticing how much time I was spending on my emails, my Instagram, my different, like just different apps and podcasts and Audible books and just all of these areas where I was really attached to my tech devices. So highly recommend checking that. And also subscribe and hit the notification bell, because my next video, as I just mentioned, I will be dishing out my 5 steps to really beginning to practice digital intentionalism, my version of digital minimalism. And if you are a female leader who is always looking for ways to kind of up-level in your career, to really make self-care a priority and to feel good in your well-being, then again, also hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because all my videos here are all about how can I support you as an ambitious woman and showing up and rocking your fiercely feminine leadership. And as always, I hope you have a fierce day and feel empowered to take action, because you, my friend, matter.